Alright, we're getting started here on a 93 1 liter 5-speed. I didn't even look. It's a 2C. It's a Canadian model. It's got the big EGR. Well, I don't think it doesn't have the big EGR on it. I thought it did. Just going over it. What do we got here? Just little things I've spotted. So all I'm doing is an engine so far on this. I don't know if there's enough light under here, but the axle boots are ripped off the car. The exhaust is tattered a little bit because it's all original. I'm sure it needs rear wheel bearings. The engine compartment's all oiled. I thought it was detailed, like from a car lot or something. Well, actually, right there's why. Huh. Look at that, a brand new oil cap. Imagine that. Alright, well now we know where the oil came from in the engine compartment. Somebody put the cap on top of the air cleaner and it slipped back and got caught on the vacuum and brake lines. And at any rate, this thing's got like a $1.48 on it for mileage and it barely runs. And I'm going to run a quick compression check on it. And actually I'll just quit pulling plug wires while we're running the camera here. And so I'm going to run a quick compression check on it. And we're going to find that it's got probably 2 burnt valves. I can barely get it in the garage here. I'll turn this off and I'll come back on when it's time to shoot some numbers. Alright, well right off taking the plugs out, they are enormously oil fouled. I'm thinking that maybe, especially that one right there, is completely wet with oil. Maybe this thing broke a piston, which is fairly common in the Metros. In fact, it's really common and they drive for a while. What do they look like? Let me grab some. It's kind of nice metal scrap pile here, but they'll break like that and keep driving. They just don't run worth the crap. In fact, this particular motor right here, it had that same problem. Gentleman bought a used Metro off Craigslist here in the last few weeks and couldn't make it run right. Somebody had done something with the engine, rebuilt it and stuff, but really they just took and mixed up a set of used pistons out of a different motor, and they didn't, because it had a broken piston, the aluminum from the piston was still in the oil pan and burnt some valves. Just another hack job. Anyhow, his stuff's all brand new again, but kind of get the feeling that this particular one's going to have that same problem. It's 93, I know I just said that, but that was a few minutes ago. Video cameras like time travel, obviously. Every time I click it on, you have no idea if it's been a day or an hour or 5 seconds. Alright, so we're going to run that compression check on it. Alright, so we've got 90 psi in the center cylinder, so that one's going to be dead for sure. And let me get. Alright, we're at about a $1.45 on the number 3 cylinder, and then I don't even need to do the other cylinder. The motor's just dead. Time to whip it apart. I'll get it all tore down, and get the head off. I'll flash some video on that and show you. It's probably burnt valves, and then we'll get the pistons out. Interesting thing on a Geo, if you just do a valve job on your Geo and you don't take the pistons out of it, you won't know if they're broken, because they'll look like they're not inside the motor. It's a very Geo-specific problem, but I've seen lots of people take and have broken pistons, and then they put the new head back on, and then the piston actually shatters the rest of the way, and then it takes the bottom end of the motor out. So whenever you're doing a valve job, always want to do the bottom end too. Just pull the pan off of it, pull each piston out of it, and you'll find it needs rings anyhow, but never just do a valve job on them. It never seems to work out for anybody.
Be ready.
Alright, here's something to think about when you're doing stuff yourself. This car, I don't know, I'm going to assume somebody built this to sell on Craigslist. They put a catalytic converter on here. They've cross-threaded the bolts. I just spent a half an hour getting this one out. I can't get this one out, so the exhaust manifold is ruined. You gotta anti-seize them, and the problem with using this stuff is if the pipe isn't bent just perfect, well, you just gotta get the thread started correctly. But this is hack stuff. It's probably done in an exhaust shop.
Look, I don't know if you want to do additions or not, because there's
just nobody cares.
You're right for if you want. No, I
that's the
definitely do want
problem.
to go,
Nobody has any skill.
I dumped all my.
All right. Worried about this motor having a cracked piston because that one plug that was oil saturated, and that usually is a sign that something's worse than just a solid stuck ring. Let's get the head all the way. Here, you know what? I'll just set this up here, and you can either see it or not. Not much magic here. Alright, so let's take a peek here. Oh yeah, that one's just wet down inside there. Look at all that oil in there. Oh, something happened. Something happened. Alright, we'll have to get the oil pan off. Well, this car just went from being a engine rebuild to a drivetrain restoration, so that block will be coming out now for a clutch kit. And then we jump over here. Let me grab my LED flashlight. Let's take a look and see what happened on the drivability part. Oh yeah, burnt valve right there. Oh, burnt valve right there too. Yep, that's the two low cylinders. Alright. Pretty standard. The only thing I'm worried about is all the oil sitting in that number 3 cylinder. Okay. Now this head's been re-CC'd, and I'm about to start doing the port work on it. So the combustion chamber has been measured, and if you had a brand new stock head every time, you'd know exactly how much to cut off your head. The trick is you have to measure it, because every time the head's been off, more than likely it's been surfaced. And when I changed the compression ratio on the motor and put the cam kit in it, it needs to be exact. I've done more of them than I can ever even try to remember, and I dialed in on this cam kit and this compression ratio and the head porting that I do a few years ago. And in fact, I developed it for airplanes to get the best fuel economy and the best takeoff power, and it works the very, very best. It just makes airplanes sip fuel, and on the cars, if you'll drive it right, it's good for 5 miles to the gallon. I actually got more than that out of it, but and it's also my most popular thing. Just about every motor I do has this set up on it, and I got it. This one's been sitting on the shelf for a couple of days. I built it a few days ago. The head's mirror surface, combustion chamber is done, exhaust valves are stainless steel, brand new. The valve springs have all been checked and they're all exactly perfect. The valve stem height has been adjusted for the new camshaft. There's way more to this, and the reason I say this is I get, I don't know, I want to say 5 emails a day, but at least a couple a day on what you do to build this. And I have to say, I'm not telling anybody. You can buy one, and you can take it apart and figure it out. I UPS these anywhere in the world, as long as your money comes green and spendable here. I got a lot of time developing this, a lot of time. You have no idea how many motors I've had to build to come up with this, and how much money I've spent buying camshafts and cutting heads too far and ruining them. And it took me a long time, and I'm going to get paid back on it maybe in my next life. But at any rate, on this particular one, this is for the Oh, I forget. This is for the 93 for Joe and his wife. I think she told me she's going to drive. God, I can't remember how many miles each way in this particular car to work. It's a tremendous number. It was God, I want to say it was like over 100 miles a day for a commuter. I think she told me she was spending about $50 a day on her Ford Explorer or something like that in fuel. At any rate, that's what we're after. She's the prime candidate for this car because she's going to be out there on the freeway. I'm guessing she's going to drive too fast just because it's such a long drive, and I don't blame anybody for that. I'd go as fast as I can. But we'll be in the lean burn state for so long where the car re-leans out from just being at a steady cruise spot on the gas pedal that she's probably, even up at 65 or 70, probably still going to pull 50, maybe even more than 50 miles to the gallon out of it. Drop down under 50, drop down to 55. Who knows on a long trip like that? I know lots of you sent me emails that tell me you get 60 with this kit. I've got 65 before, but it's always been in the mountains, never on flat ground, and mostly because I never get to test it on flat ground. Because generally anywhere I drive my big tow that has this setup on it, my Metro that I tow with, the other half of the drive is with another car being pulled behind it, so it doesn't, I never get the full test on it, but I run back and forth to Montana from here. Like, if everybody knows where I live, out in the middle of nowhere, I can make it all the way to Missoula on a tank of gas, and we roll in on vapor, but it's a long frickin' ways, and it takes the entire tank. Sometimes I'm scared it's going to run out of gas, and in fact I carry 2 gallons of gas in the trunk when I take the trip, because one day the car could just run bad. You get a bad plug wire or something, fuel economy could drop away 2 or 3 miles a gallon and leave me 40 miles out of Missoula, 20 below, like a dummy trying to push my luck. But at any rate, no, I'm not telling anybody what this has. I'm not giving cam profile numbers, just like the emails I send back to you. But that's why. It's just because it's a combination that I came up with, and I know I'll do an XFI cam kit for somebody if they want, if they don't mind losing that 8 horsepower. I don't recommend it, but I do it, and doing an XFI cam or doing this cam combination is the same price, but this one gets you better gas mileage. And an XFI cam kit only really truly works for you if you've got the mirrors taken off the car. The front bumper is the XFI bumper that has no holes in it. The transmission has been changed to an XFI tranny. The tires have been moved to 13-inch. There's more to it. You got to do a lot to make a stock Metro bump up on the fuel economy, or you can just take a stock one and just do this to it. And that's the beauty of this kit, is you don't need all that other stuff. Now if you have all that other stuff, I'll be completely honest with you, nobody has ever stepped up and done all that to all of them. And I've never had the opportunity to drive that, and the XFIs are so rare that everybody wants a fortune for a used one, so I would never even consider buying one to put this head combination on. But my guess is right off you're gonna raise the horsepower by probably 10 horsepower on an XFI, and probably about maintain the, you know, here I'm getting long-winded on this video, but and it's, I know this is a video receipt for the Joe that owns the car, but it's actually my how-to videos too for YouTube. But I will say, I actually think that well, I've never had I've owned many XFIs over the years that have been restored, and they've all been restored with stock heads on them and stuff. I've never been able to pull the 58 miles to the gallon out of one, ever. They get the exact same gas mileage as a non-stock Geo. I mean, I can testify to thousands and tens of thousands of miles of driving both. I don't know where this nonsense comes from on the gas mileage, except for if you look up the EPA fuel rating. It's just ridiculous. So on that note, that's why you'll never see me chase the XFI down, and it's also the reason you never see me chase transmissions down that are XFI. And those of you that have called me looking for them, I've told you kind of the same story, but if you didn't realize the detail behind it, it's because I've never, ever seen it actually make a damn difference. Now, changing tire sizes is going from 12 to 13 or 14 inch can get you the same gear ratio or the final drive ratio as the XFI, and even a smidge taller than that. And there's something to be had there. So I look at it like the camshaft redo on the XFI, I think, was a mistake, and the reason that they quit doing it. But the delete on the front bumper and for the whole, the mirrors, and the tire size, or the transmission on the XFI, I should say, that's where it's all at. And if you do that stuff to your regular Geo, I think you'll find that you'll get closer to it than anything. So XFI camshafts, I put them in. In fact, I probably put them in, several of them a year, and nobody ever complains about it. But if you put 4 fat guys like me in it and try to head over the mountain pass like here in Washington, 10 horsepower, or I should say 8 horsepower less, you know, that gets you down to 49 horsepower. I know some manuals say 47, but the difference between around 57 to 60 in a stock Metro to 50 or 47, a huge deal. And yeah, at any rate, this I just don't recommend them. I recommend this package, and the reason I recommend it is because it costs the exact same amount to do this as it does to do the other. And whenever you want more efficiency, you always build the motor more efficient. You never detune it and make it inefficient, and that's what a camshaft on an XFI does. It just makes it more inefficient, and you just can't get deep in the throttle to burn more fuel. Well, nobody's getting wide open or deep in the throttle anyhow. It's a I think it was engineered the wrong way, and I also believe that's why they got rid of it. Okay, just getting ready to assemble this head. You can kind of see the porting's been done on it. I think in the last video I spent minutes showing you the head surface on it. When you get your camshaft, if you buy a camshaft, if you get it from me or have one made or whatnot, remember it comes with this black coating on it. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like a pre-lube deal, so it'll break in properly, so don't clean that off. And I just went through those lifters, and they're all perfect. And I'll go ahead and put it together, and then I'll show you a quick video of it when it's done. Alright, so I've installed the camshaft, and I'm showing you that before I put the intake and exhaust on, because then nothing's blinding your view. And then if you look, I got pre-lube on each top of each lifter, and sometimes I'll put it on the top, but just pre-lube everything and then pre-lube the bearings. The oil will come out and wash that out, and make sure it's EP lube. Even if it's just wheel bearing grease, just make sure it says EP or it says extreme pressure lubricant. That means it's been fortified with an additive, very important. And even when you're repacking your wheel bearings, make sure you do that. And so I'm ready to put the rest of this together, and we'll be back soon. Alright, I thought I'd shoot a quick little video. I'm going to try to post some of these little individual videos on the Drivetrain restoration page on where it says each part that gets done. If you've probably found this, you're probably already there. At any rate, this EGR was plugged up solid, and that's what you're after, is that's plugged up. And then, where did I put my flashlight? Let's see. Actually, let me drag a light down here so we can see. Oh, there we go. Nice, have some adjustable lighting. And then you can see this is plugged here. And this track follow my wire here, or my finger. This goes all the way back, and then it bleeds in the back, and behind this plate right here, when you take this solenoid off, is a soft plug, and you can pull that out, and then you can clean this track out, and then you can clean this track out individually up here. This is fairly difficult, so it takes a little bit of work, but you can snake around this way, and then around this way, and then you can wash it out with a brake cleaner or electrical cleaner or whatnot, or you can disassemble the whole thing and soak it, but you just do a nice job cleaning it out. I have some special brushes that I've made, some wire that, well, I've just done it a million times, but the average guy at home is probably going to want to just pull the intake manifold off of it, because it just takes a few minutes. Take it to the local machine shop, just have them boil it out in a car cleaner or whatever they're using, and then obviously the EGR needs to be cleaned back out, and then you'll find that this hole on the top of the EGR, like this one, plugged completely solid. You're going to run a drill bit through that and open it back up on the inside and wash it all out with some brake cleaner, carb clean. This EGR system's completely plugged up, and that's what caused this motor to fail. It's just a total lack of oil changes. The EGR fails, the exhaust gas temperatures come up, it burns the exhaust valves up in it. The exhaust valve, when it burns, and there's no even pressure on the piston, so it lets the piston just slap, because now it's just flinging and they're doing nothing. And you got to keep in mind that even pressure from the compression pushing the piston up and down, how that keeps the piston from moving back and forth. And I'm pretty sure it's slapped and broke a piston wall in here. We'll find out here in the next few videos. But this stuff is all really important, and everybody has this, oh, they do this or they do that. No, one thing happens and the next thing happens and the next thing, and everything on a Geo that happens eventually ends up with a broken piston, I can assure you. So keep your storyline correct by always keeping the EGR clean. The EGR stops the exhaust valves from burning, and the exhaust valves stop the piston from breaking, and so on and so forth. Okay, oh, I gotta do three things at once and hold the camera. But you can see the drill bit here, and that's what I'm doing. I'm just drilling the EGR tube out, and then I'll wash the back side of it out. But we gotta make sure everything flows again. And then when I get, god dang it, let me set the stuff down here. So what I do is, you can see I've been working on this for a little while. Oops, where did I put my foam at? I've already done this and it's done, but this track is now clean going to the intake and one to the port, and I know that because it's dripping out the back port here, and I got the intake manifold tipped on an angle, and because it just feeds in one hole in the back, and then the suction through the throttle body feeds the individual cylinders independently. But what I do is I use and you could use anything, I'd recommend just getting it boiled out, but I use a foaming industrial solvent by Certified. I think it works just fabulously, and it's just nothing more than just fill it up, and when it expands, well, you can see how it shoots out this hole right here. In a minute it'll poof out, and it'll be like brand new, and then obviously this will get a whizzy disc down for the new gaskets and stuff that'll go on the new head. You can see the gaskets down there. Well, here's a little FYI too. When you go to put the intake manifold on, treat this like a thermostat. The gasket, I put a little bead of silicone behind here a couple minutes ago because I wanted to start setting up. I'll put another bead on here, and then I'll put the intake. Not around every one of them, just the two water jackets. They'll work without it, but I've found that I've never ever had a water leak failure on one that's been silicone. So just, you know, they last a long time either way. Just something I do. But yeah, that industrial foaming deal, drill the EGR out. I'm going to fill this with foam now. After a while, I'm going to clean this EGR out. I'm going to fill it with foam. I'll put some vacuum on it really quick, and make sure that the diaphragm's good, which I know this particular one is already because I checked it a minute ago. And then I'll put it all back together, and that is what makes everything perfect. And that's what it takes.
Fuck, dude.
Oh,
Okay. Hold on, let me see.
Okay, hold on. Turn my podcast off. Here's something that's a little goofy, and we'll work past it because I don't have another one. Somebody's taken this bracket and well, you can see the grinder marker cut off. They've cut the bracket off. It's supposed to have a bolt hole right here, and it sits above the EGR. And they've just taken, when they put it back together, they've just taken a washer and put it behind that bolt, tightened it down. It'll be fine. It'll probably sit there by itself. And on the trackers, they don't even use the bracket, and the EGR just sits above it on some of the ears. The because it doesn't weigh anything. fact, you know what? I might just do that. I think I might just eliminate that whole bracket. But that's not right. That's a little bit goofy. That's what we're going to do. We're going to set it up like a tracker. So I'll just get rid of this and nobody will know the difference. But I'll put it on the video anyhow. Not a big deal. Just one of those things where people. That's why if you watch my videos, and I always when I go out and find Geos to restore, I find Geos no one's ever touched. I'm looking for the big POS that's just wore out, driven. They were too cheap to do any maintenance to it. I mean, just didn't do a damn thing to it. That's the car I'm looking for. Because all the stuff is right, and I can take it apart and make it look perfect. This stuff where it's been monkeyed and fixed, and people are trying to make 3 cents on it, and putting it up on the big CL and Craigslist. It's just a non-slot of nonsense, because nobody puts a value on a Geo. They think that they can just hammer it together and beat on it with a hammer and it'll just all work, and it doesn't. And those of you that have had restored cars or have restored your own and watched my videos and whatnot and been talking to me over on the internet now for years, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the new guys that come in. Usually you have to hack through your, and I'll just say it, you have to hack through your first Geo. Maybe the first 2. Now the price of the gas has gone up. I think we're really back on to 1, but lots of people are out there and they're actually looking at the gas mileage. Back when gas wasn't all that expensive, we were just putting them together and driving them. Now people are actually checking the miles and going, hold on, how come I'm only getting 42? How come I'm only getting 39? And we start fixing things, and all of a sudden things start to get perfect, because you start realizing the difference between it being 90% and 100% is 5 miles to the gallon. You know, I mean 10%. Those are real things. At any rate, I just wanted to show the owner of this for this video receipt that, and not to worry about it. We're going to eliminate this bracket, and up on the top up here, in fact, I'll eliminate it right now and show you what I'm talking about. I got to undo a screw there, but that just sits over the top of the EGR and it kind of floats on the top. It's in fact, the brackets that's holding it down. Not a big deal, just a hackle job from or by someone. Okay, as I'm taking this motor out, a few things I'm seeing is there's no bolts on the starter. Well, I should say there's only one bolt in the starter and the other one's not tight. It's not the only bolt that's been missing. I'd make a note of that. We'll get new ones put in there. I always wonder about the people that do that kind of shoddy work. But hopefully you don't know them.
Let's get back to the writing process.
Alrighty, let me turn my podcast back off. Got the engine just out, just swinging there. And throwout bearing's bad. And well, the clutch looks like it's probably about wiped out. Get it off there. The rear main seal was leaking. Good thing we pulled the motor out. Front crank seal was leaking too. I put the timing marks on it before I took the motor out. We'll get the pulley off and some new seals in there. Alright, you can see the clutch disc on it. Well, you can just see that the rivet's almost flush right there. Those ones are for the back side, so they look like there's more. But that rivet's just flush. The clutch disc is wore out, and the rust is just the spring vibration back and forth. Good time to throw it away. This thing probably had, oh, I don't know, maybe a couple oil changes left on it. Flywheel looks like it's in good shape. We'll get it all machined back up here. And new throwout bearing, clutch, pilot bearing, all that good stuff. This is why it's so important to not just do engine rebuilds to them. If your car needs an engine rebuild, it's pretty much wore out. I mean, the whole, they just are. Somehow it was just engineered, and I don't know if it was on purpose or whatnot, but everything on the cars just wore out when they start to approach about 125,000 miles or so. This is another FYI for those of you at home doing your engines. Got to pull that flywheel off and change those rear main seals. This one's rock hard, and you can see how it was trying to seat. Mostly where you can see it though is in the transmission bell housing. Trannies don't leak in turn or out the output shaft seal. It's these rock hard seals here. This thing should be nice and soft. So we'll go ahead and stuff a factory brand new one in, and buy factory stuff. Don't buy aftermarket stuff. Sometimes you're gonna have to pay more for aftermarket stuff, but buy the good stuff. It fits right, and it lasts for 20 years. It seems like if you'll change the oil on time. Okay, no broken piston in this engine. And what we have is the rings are complete. The oil scraper ring is well, I'm breaking it free now, but completely flush with the piston, so it just virtually wasn't scraping any oil back into the cylinder. The cylinder walls look polished. They're perfect now, obviously. I've gone through them, but the oil on the plug was just the oil scraper ring being completely compressed and stuck, so it wasn't sprung out at all. Very aggressively too, but not a big deal. We'll get it fixed and make that happen. It'll be like new again. Alright, my camera, I turned it off, sorry. So the motor just dropped down an idle. I've grounded out the computer, which turns off the electronic timing in the distributor. And you can see where it's 0 down there. Can you see it? Yeah, you can see it. So I'm gonna, I don't know if you can see that, but hold on a second. I'm gonna rotate into position right there, 5 degrees. So it's just off the center right there. That's just perfect. And I know these marks aren't off. And the oh, you know what? Hold on a second. That would be right in the middle, but that's the difference in the material being cut off the head. That's the amount of the head being lowered down and the slack being taken up in the timing belt from the adjustment. So if this was a stock head, the distributor would be rotated more over to probably about there. And being that it's a high compression motor now, it changes it there. And that's actually a mechanical change. That's the difference in all the material being cut off the head. And now I'm not going to tell you how much I cut off the head. Okay, well, I'm going to just tighten this all up and we'll get on to the next part of this restore.